Indeed we do. We've got the very elusive and very shy Thandi, and she is slowly but surely carving her way through the thickets as she goes about her morning business. And this is so exciting because I think she's been on her nightly patrol. She looks as though she may be heading back towards the den, and maybe we'll be able to introduce you all to this tiny little fluff ball that we saw a few weeks ago. My name is Tristan, and this is going to be the most exciting morning because we're going to follow her as much as we can through all of these thickets. Remember, this is live, it is interactive, so I would love to know from you guys what you think. Is she going to the den, or do you think that she is going to be hunting? And you can do that, hashtag Safari Live on Twitter. Right, now we're going to try keep up with her. It is incredibly thick where she's walking at the moment. She's heading in the right direction to go towards the den, but she keeps stopping and stalking and using her tail to indicate that she's interested in something, and so I wonder if maybe she's going to take us on a hunt as well. Anyway, it's going to be very exciting, and so while we watch her creep through these thickets, let's go to my friend Steph, who's in the wilderness on foot, and see what he's got with him. We do indeed, Taylor, and it is so difficult to keep up with her at the moment. She's in really thick bush, but this is exactly where leopards like to be. Leopards like to get into these thickets where that spotted coat can just help them melt away and disappear when they're starting to hunt. And you can see as she moves away from us through this thicket how those spots break up her outline, and she camouflages so incredibly well. Now I'm going to try and keep up with her because she is going to give us a slip if I don't stay with her. She is moving through horribly thick stuff at the moment, but like I say, this is exactly where she wants to be. And what she's doing at the moment is she's moving around and she's going back and forth and back and forth, and she's trying to flush smaller animals. So she's trying to flush things like baby impalas that have just been born during this lambing season. She's also been trying to flush little scrub hares, which is a type of kind of rabbit that we get here in this area, as well as things called duiker, which is a small antelope. So that's what she's trying to do, is she's trying to go and weave herself through these thickets, enabling her to try and flush these out, and as they run out she can then give chase. Now I've lost her for the time being. Oh, there she is. She's going to be straight ahead of us. There is a very steep ditch here that I've got to try and get through, so while I try and negotiate this ditch, I believe Noel's pachyderms have started to quench their thirst. Given up, and we've managed to find her again. She's just come out of a really dense thicket, and a bit of perseverance has helped, but the really good thing is that she's hunting some warthogs at the moment. So there's some warthogs that are off in the distance that we came across before we spotted her. We were busy looking at the warthogs, and we thought we'll try and see if maybe she's watching these same warthogs, and it seems as though she's heading straight towards them. So I'm going to turn around quickly so that we can just keep up with her before we decide that she's going to go away and lose us once again. But it's so exciting. We're on the hunt with this leopard, and it is the best thing in the whole world to be on a hunt with a female leopard. She often is very calculating. It's a very different type of hunting to things like lions that use each other. Leopards are calculating and will spend time to negotiate their terrain and try and get in as close as they can. Now the problem is I don't want to disturb her hunt, so we're going to try and give a little bit of area to her and a little bit of space and leave her to kind of slowly stalk in. What I want to do though is position myself in a way that we can see both the warthogs and the leopard. There the warthogs are. You see them? They're just in front of us. So she's getting closer and closer towards where the warthog family is, and she's going to be looking for those smaller warthogs. Look, you see how she's going slowly? She's spotted them. She knows that they're here. So from here, we're going to try and keep our voices down. We don't want to ruin the hunt for her. Those warthogs have no idea that this leopard is here. They are a bit concerned because they can see us, but they don't know that the leopard is there. And so if we sit still now, those warthogs hopefully we'll start feeding again and we'll stop worrying about us. But she's going to slowly but surely stalk her way, and what she's doing now is just stopping and looking and listening and just trying to work out which is the best way for her to approach these warthogs. At the end of the day, the warthogs are going to move, and she's going to think about a way to try and get around them so that she can ambush them. Leopards are not like cheetah, that they're able to run at incredible speeds, or like lions, as I mentioned just now, where they've got each other to rely on. She's got a situation where she's got to try and stalk and ambush this prey. And so what she does is she calculates where she's going to go, and then she moves towards those warthogs. Now, Jared's buddy, you're wondering why do you, or why do leopards never hunt impala nurseries? Well, they do. In fact, in this particular area, there's not just the warthogs. There is also impalas with tiny babies as well. And so you're going to have a situation where if she doesn't get right with the warthogs, she might turn her attention to those impalas and those impala babies. The thing about impalas, though, is that there is a lot more eyes and ears and noses, and so it's a lot harder to get closer to those when they're in those big herds. It's much easier to get to things like warthogs, which are in small groupings together. They're also much lower to the ground, and the chances of seeing her is a lot more difficult. But you can see that warthog thinks there's something going on. It's seen our vehicle, and so it's a little bit kind of nervous as to what's happening, and she'll be trying to protect her little piglets and make sure that she keeps them safe. And what Thandi's doing is just trying to slowly edge her way using the cover of all of these bushes, and you can see the camouflage, how well it works for both these animals. Both of them at the end of the day are actually quite well camouflaged considering. So we're just going to have to sit and be really patient as she tries to get a little bit closer. And while we sit and be patient, we're going to send you all the way thousands of miles northeast to Jamie, who's got massive pachyderms that are going down to a little bit of water. Now, unfortunately, there's a few technical difficulties, and that's part of being on a live safari, is that we're out in the middle of the bush, but our Thandi is still sitting patiently and still waiting. The warthogs are in the background. They haven't moved too far either, and so it's still a bit of a stalemate at this stage, but I'm sure what she's doing is just working out which way are these warthogs going to go. Are they going to go right? Are they going to go left? But you can see the warthog's head is now dropped down, so they're starting to feed again, which means that they're comfortable that nothing is around, and that's what she wants. She wants them to put their heads down and start to feed, because that means that they're not paying attention, they're not looking, they're not listening, and at the end of the day they're also going to be eating food, which creates a bit of noise, and that will allow her to stalk her way closer. And she's got a really good line to where these warthogs are. She's got a nice little thicket that curves round to those warthogs, and she'll try and use that thicket to the best of her advantage. You can see there is a lot of trees between where she is and those warthogs, so this is an ideal place for a leopard to be hunting. And because she's got a little cub, she needs to be hunting quite excessively to try and provide enough nutrients. Now, like I say, I'm going to sit patiently, and it seems that Noel has traded places with Jamie, and the two of them are sharing the elephants this morning. Well, let's hope so. She's gotten much, much closer. She's still not in full stalk mode, though. She's edged her way quite a lot closer to where we last saw the warthogs, and now she's just sitting and watching. I have a funny feeling that the warthogs have moved slightly from where we last saw them, because the way that she walked up was quite confident and quite brazen. Generally, when a leopard is getting close to its prey animal, you'll find it'll get down nice and low, its stomach almost to the ground, and those shoulder joints that float will get up, and they'll be able to then crawl their way on their bellies towards their prey animal. So I think what's happened is she's just closing the distance again. The warthogs maybe have increased distance slightly. She's now closing that distance once again and is trying to then get closer and closer. And what she's going to do is she's going to get to a situation where she's going to try and get to sort of 5 meters or so out, so not very far. Going to then launch an attack. But I don't think we're quite at that point just yet. I think we're in a situation where she's got to close the distance quite a lot more than where she is at the moment. And so while we sit with her and wait for her to close that distance and get her to stalk a little bit closer, let's go across to my friend Jamie, all the way in Kenya, Northeast Africa, with her elephants. We do indeed, and look at the incredible camouflage of this cat. You can see how those spots just help it blend into its environment. It's still watching the warthog, so it hasn't quite gotten into full stalk mode just yet. Still watching and calculating and working it out. And I was saying just now that leopards will be really patient when it comes to hunting. They don't just rush in and grab their food item. They'll take some time to actually settle and to really try and calculate exactly where they need to be. And you'll find a situation where they're going to try and get as close as possible and then launch this incredible attack. And you'll find that with her, she's just playing the patience game. It's better for her to be patient and to try and to work out where she's actually going to be and where she's going to position herself. But I would like to hear from all of you in a one-word tweet how a leopard hunting makes you feel. For me, it's sheer exhilaration. I absolutely love watching leopards on the hunt. I love the way that they calculate and that they stalk and that they move around. And so I would love to hear from you how this leopard hunt makes you feel. And so hopefully she is going to go into that stalk mode again. It is my favorite thing to watch. I absolutely love when leopards get low down and they stalk on their tummies. There's just something about it. It's this sort of it almost invokes a bit of kind of fear in me, the way that they just get down and how they can disappear in even the shortest of grass. So the grass here is not very long, but if this leopard gets completely down and low, it's going to creep through. The other interesting thing is that I've heard a few guinea fowl. Now in the background there's guinea fowl that are making a little bit of alarm call. You see how she's turned her head now to look. So I wonder if maybe something else is lurking in this particular area. Now Chris, you're wondering which animal kills a prey, or which cat kills prey faster, so lion or leopard? Well, it depends on the size of the animal at the end of the day, but generally leopards tend to kill their prey animals a lot faster. They get it over the muzzle or over the throat and they'll try and strangle and suffocate that animal, whereas lions sometimes, particularly things like buffalo, when they hunt those, they'll just start feeding on that buffalo even before it's dead, and the buffalo can sometimes live for over an hour. It's a very cruel process, but it is the way that it goes, and because the buffalo is so large, those lions really struggle to be able to get onto it and to really subdue it, and they want to stay away from those horns, Whereas with the leopards, they try and get onto their throat and silence that animal as soon as possible because they don't want to attract too much attention to themselves. Now, Nikki, you say primal for the one-word tweet. I quite like that. The way that they stalk and the way that they move in is a very primal instinct, and it is instinct at the end of the day. You'll find that these cats, while they do calculate the initial phases as the hunt unfolds, so that instinct takes over and that primal sort of notion comes in. Now, Linda, you say suspenseful. It is suspenseful, isn't it? You can almost cut the tension with a knife. You can see that warthog is not far from where she is. She's just sitting and watching at the moment, and she's trying to work out how she's going to close that gap a little bit. But the fact that we can see both of them not too far from one another means that she's actually not, well, she's getting quite close now. So this is starting to get really exciting, and we're starting to see a situation where she's getting much, much, much closer. And I think what she's doing is she's sitting patiently waiting for these warthogs to start coming past that bush and into a clear line of sight, and that's when she's going to go low and hopefully launch that attack. It's really going to be very exciting. Now, we're going to go into a short little break because at the end of the day, we're going to just try and catch our breaths, but this leopard is slowly stalking, so don't go anywhere. I'm sure she's going to get closer, and hopefully when you rejoin us, she'll be right on the tails of those warthogs. Sorry, Kirst. Now, I apologize for that. We were just into our ad break, and I forgot actually to say this is Safari Live, which is very naughty of me. I'm sure Kirst is going to slap me on the wrist a little bit later, but that's okay. We'll try and remember a little bit later. I just get too excited about leopards, as you all know, and so I'm in a situation where I'm trying to kind of calm my sort of excitement at this point. It's really watching Thandi go about business, and it's been a long time since I've watched a leopard hunt and watched her go about her business, and I've been talking about it with a number of the guides this week, is that we seem to struggle to find Thandi on kills, even though she's got this cub on Djuma. Lately we haven't seen her on a meal for quite some time, and so I really hope that we will be able to sort it out. Now, while we sit and wait for Thandi to get a little bit closer, I believe Noel has found a very rare, very endangered predator to show. At this stage, I don't know if Thandi is going to be doing anything, because she's now laid down and decided to sit and rest for a little bit. So she's not really in too much of a hurry, and she's not really seems to be too interested in these warthogs, even though the warthogs are not far. They're just on the other side of that little thicket. She seems to have kind of stopped for now, and maybe that's her plan, is just to sit tight and hope that the warthogs will slowly drift closer towards her and come around that bush, and she can then surprise them from there. She's kind of glancing over at them, but you can see she's not really that interested at this point, although that warthog is seriously getting close, and you can see the warthog is just feeding and it's got its head down every now and then, and so the situation is that it is quite close. I suppose that hunt could play out very, very quickly here if it does go the right way. Now, I'm just going to hold off speaking because we are going to come out of an ad break. welcome back to this live safari for Big Cat Week. You can see our leopard is sitting still patiently, still waiting, hoping that the warthogs come closer. My name is Tristan, and like I say, we are watching a live leopard hunt. This leopard is just sitting at the moment, just waiting patiently and just trying to see if these warthogs can then come a little bit closer. At the end of the day, she has a situation where the warthogs are just behind the bush and they are moving around. They're going from one side to another. They're trying to kind of go around and then feed, and I'm pretty sure at some point that warthog is going to come around, and that's what Thandi is waiting for. She wants that warthog just to skirt the fringes of that tree, and then she can use her speed to try and tackle it. But while we sit patiently and wait, we're going to send you across to Jamie, I believe, who's got some buffalo bulls in the Masai Mara, thousands of miles north of us. Well, you can see by the twitching of the tail that she's now locked on again, and so she's realized that the warthogs are maybe a little closer than she first thought. So she's up and she's going, and the warthogs are slowly coming around the bush. I just saw the back of a warthog slowly coming around through a gap just now, and what I'm hoping is that they're just going to come around the edge of that green thicket and she can then explode with that incredible speed off the mark. So it's getting quite exciting now. She's getting a lot closer, and the warthogs are falling into the trap by moving straight towards her. She's not having to move a muscle at this stage. She's just sitting attentively and watching them. And it's interesting because I've had the most amazing experiences with Thandi and warthogs. She seems for some reason to take enjoyment in stalking them, and sometimes she doesn't always catch them. For a while she went after a big male warthog the one time, and she kind of you see how she's getting a little lower, except that the warthogs are really close to where she is. I don't know what she's doing. Surely she's going to show herself. The warthogs are just on the other side of that thicket that she's gone into, just through that gap as the last time I saw a warthog. But she's being very brazen about the way that she's going about things. I'm going to try and just reposition ourselves just a little bit because we can't see very much from there. So, although there she comes out. Now, where's the warthog? Now, I'm not sure where the warthogs have gone. They were right there where she's walked. It seems as though they've drifted off. She's not really interested, so I don't think she's going to carry on this hunt. You can see the tail is up and curled, so she's displaying that she's not going to be hunting anymore. And so while we follow her and see where she goes next, let's go back across to Jamie in the Masai Mara as she tries to negotiate her way through the Great Plains of Africa. Well, I do consider myself very lucky, Steph. At the end of the day, any time you can lay eyes on this elusive animal is a good day. And so I feel incredibly privileged to be able to follow this animal and to bring all of you along with us on a live safari for Big Cat Week. Now, it is incredible to watch her going at the moment. You can see her tail is up and it is moving quite a bit, and you see that white piece of the tail. Earlier when she was hunting, that tail was down, so she was trying to keep it down because it's easy for other animals to see it, but now she's walking with it up as almost if to say to everybody, I'm not hunting anymore, which might be good news for us because it might be meaning she's on her way now towards the den. Now, Julia, you're wondering how far a leopard would travel away from her cub. Well, we know roughly where the den is at the moment. She might have, of course, moved the den in the last few days, but we know roughly where the den is, and that den from where we are now is probably, I would say, less than a mile away. So it's not too far, so she'll try not to go too far away, but at the end of the day, she also needs to find food, and that means that she's got to move quite a bit to find that food. Now, I'm trying to keep up with her as she negotiates these very dense riverine areas, because this is the places that leopards love to move around in. You can see it's thick, it's brushy, it's not easy at all. And so while I try and keep up with her and try and follow her as much as we can, because I think she might be going to the den, let's go back across to Jamie Patterson with those beautiful big ellies in the Masai Mara.